On a moonless shore, a female sea turtle rises where another journey once began. Decades may have passed since she crossed this sand as a hatchling. She has fed across distant seas, followed currents, and survived hazards without seeing this coast. Now, she approaches a narrow nesting region from an ocean crowded with possible landfalls. The central mystery is how an animal remembers a birthplace it encountered only briefly. Her return is often called natal homing, but that phrase names the behavior, not its mechanism. Some females nest near their natal area, while exact beach fidelity varies among species and individuals. The destination can shift as storms rebuild dunes and currents move the sand. If you stood beside her tracks, they might look like a line drawn from memory. Yet no evidence shows a turtle holding a human-like picture of the beach. Researchers instead ask which physical signatures were learned, inherited, or recognized during approach. Earth's magnetic field offers a global cue that exists beyond sight and smell. Local waves, odors, and coastal shapes may become useful only during the final kilometers. The return probably unfolds through stages, each narrowing uncertainty with different information. One turtle crossing the surf therefore carries several testable questions beneath her shell. 7 living sea turtle species occupy tropical, subtropical, and some temperate marine habitats. Loggerheads, caretta, provide especially strong evidence for large-scale magnetic orientation and natal homing. Hatchlings emerge, crawl toward the brightest open horizon, and enter waves headfirst. Wave direction helps them orient offshore, where swimming reduces immediate exposure to coastal predators. Beyond breaking waves, young turtles can respond to magnetic field conditions associated with ocean regions. Laboratory experiments expose hatchlings to controlled fields without moving them geographically. When simulated fields change, their swimming directions often change in ways consistent with useful migration. These results directly demonstrate magnetic responses, not a complete lifelong map. Juveniles may spend years circulating through broad ocean habitats before settling into feeding areas. Adults later migrate between feeding grounds and nesting regions, sometimes across entire basins. Satellite tags document these routes by transmitting locations when turtles surface to breathe. Tracks show purposeful travel, course adjustments, and repeated use of broad migratory corridors. They also show that currents displace turtles, requiring movement through a dynamic, fluid landscape. Females usually nest several times within a season, then may wait years before returning. Tagging confirms repeated regional fidelity, although erosion can force landings on neighboring beaches. Genetic studies reveal distinct nesting populations because females tend to reproduce near their natal regions. Males may disperse genes more broadly, so population boundaries are real but not perfectly sealed. This female-biased fidelity helps explain why nearby rookeries can retain different genetic signatures. It also establishes that return behavior shapes population structure across generations. Magnetic imprinting is the leading explanation for how the remembered region is encoded. Under this hypothesis, hatchlings learn the local magnetic signature during departure or early life. As adults, they use a magnetic map to approach matching conditions near the natal coast. The hypothesis is mainstream and strongly supported, though direct lifelong tracking remains impossible today. The field itself varies in intensity and inclination across Earth's surface. Those values form gradients that can provide position-like information without a visible landmark. To test imprinting, researchers compare nesting patterns with slow changes in Earth's magnetic field. Where magnetic signatures along a coast converge, nesting populations may become more genetically similar. Where signatures diverge, separation may increase, a pattern consistent with geomagnetic guidance. This correlation supports the mechanism, but correlation alone cannot reveal every navigational decision. Controlled experiments also show that turtles respond appropriately to magnetic fields from different locations. The combined evidence is stronger than either genetic geography or tank orientation alone. Still, a magnetic signature is not a permanent postal code fixed beneath one grain of sand. Earth's field drifts over time, while beaches erode, accrete, brighten, and change their odor. You would expect perfect pinpointing to fail under such moving conditions, and often it does. Many females return to a nesting region rather than the exact place where they emerged. The scale of fidelity differs among rookeries, species, coastlines, and available nesting habitat. This flexibility may be adaptive because an exact vanished beach cannot receive eggs. Near land, olfactory cues could help identify coastal water, although evidence varies among species. Wave patterns can indicate shoreline direction, especially when visibility is poor. Vision may reveal headlands, vegetation silhouettes, or artificial lights during final approach. No experiment has established one universal sequence for every sea turtle population. Magnetism can guide a basin crossing without necessarily choosing the final patch of dry sand. Local cues can refine a landing without explaining navigation from a distant feeding ground. Inherited tendencies may set broad routes, while experience improves later migrations. Adults often travel more directly than inexperienced juveniles, consistent with learned route refinement. However, directness can also reflect stronger swimming capacity or different goals. Satellite tracks contain locations, not thoughts, so interpretation must remain disciplined. Displaced turtles sometimes correct their course, demonstrating navigation beyond simple route following. Their corrections support map-like information, but the sensory inputs can remain ambiguous. The strongest account combines magnetic imprinting, inherited orientation, learning, and local recognition. Natal homing connects one female's memory with the survival of an entire nesting population. Beach temperature influences embryo development and the sex ratios produced by many sea turtles. Sand moisture, flooding, predators, and vegetation affect whether buried eggs survive incubation. Returning to a historically successful region can therefore preserve a valuable reproductive strategy. But fidelity also creates vulnerability when familiar beaches become unsuitable. Sea walls can trap nesting females below high tide or block access to higher sand. Artificial lighting can misdirect hatchlings away from the ocean after emergence. Rising seas and stronger erosion can compress beaches against roads and buildings. If you change the coastline faster than turtles can adjust, memory becomes a narrowing corridor. Fishing gear threatens adults during migrations that may repeat along predictable routes. Plastic ingestion, vessel strikes, and habitat loss add risks across different life stages. Protection must therefore connect nesting shores with feeding grounds and the routes between them. Darkening a beach helps hatchlings, but it cannot remove distant mortality in ocean fisheries. Safer fishing practices help adults, but they cannot preserve nests on a hardened shoreline. Because females return regionally, recovery can be slow after a nesting population disappears. Colonization from another beach may occur, yet strong fidelity limits how quickly replacement happens. Climate change may also alter magnetic conditions indirectly through no known mechanism. The larger threat is habitat change. Warming sand and altered storms directly transform the physical destination females are trying to reach. Conservation succeeds best when natural beach movement has room to continue. The ancient behavior remains effective only while a usable shore survives beneath its cues. Future studies need longer tracking histories that follow individuals across multiple reproductive cycles. Smaller tags could record fine turns during the transition from open ocean to coastal water. Magnetic exposure data could be matched with each correction rather than averaged across a route. Experiments can test combined magnetic, odor, wave, and visual cues under realistic conditions. Researchers must also compare species instead of assuming loggerhead results. Explain every turtle. Long-term nesting records can reveal whether females shift landings as magnetic signatures and beaches migrate. You may then see natal homing as flexible recognition rather than mechanical return. Direct tests of imprinting across decades remain difficult because sea turtles mature slowly. That delay is a limitation, not permission to fill the missing years with certainty. The magnetic hypothesis earns confidence because multiple independent patterns support its predictions. The final beach choice remains less resolved and probably depends on several coastal cues. Future evidence should predict where landings move before nesting records reveal the change. It should also explain when females abandon damaged shores and when fidelity holds them there. On the dark beach, the returning turtle covers her eggs and turns toward the surf. Her arrival is not proof of an exact remembered coordinate, but evidence of layered navigation toward a living, changing birthplace.